path to your faith? How did you find your path to your faith? Does anyone feel like they didn't get to answer that adequately? Does anyone want to add anything to that? Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll go on to the second question. So the second one is, can you describe a moment when you experienced your faith? So what I mean by this question is talking about taking ownership of identity, right? Because it's one thing to say, in my case, I can say I'm a scholar, right? But then you have that kind of voice in the back of our heads that's like, yeah, but are you really? Right? Or I'm a doctor, yeah, but are you really? Because you have the degree, but so what? Right? There's that self-doubt, right? Whatever identity it is that you lay claim to, right? Whatever you may be, I am a really good cook, right? And in the back of my voice, I'm like, are you really? Right? So when can you describe a moment when you really experienced and took ownership of the identity that you've been telling us about today? Is there a particular event or occasion? And we can just, I'll answer that and we can just go down the line, if that's okay.
A particular moment that answers that for me is a couple of years ago, I was at a friend invited me to a meetup at her house, and it was, about maybe 10, 15 people there, and she asked me to bring my book to read some poetry from. So in my book, there's 90 poems in it. It's titled Lady Muslim with a Pen, Poetry and Essays. And there's 90 poems in it, and from those 90, 70 are paired up with different verses from the Quran that inspired them, or that just gave them a shape. So I just read, a handful of poems from it, sat down, and then this 80-year-old white woman came up to me and she sat down, and she looked at me and she said, my grandmother had a Quran. And she said, but the translation, it was an old Quran. And she said, the translation from it was, she said, guess the tone wasn't really, inviting. I don't know what translation it was, but I apologize to her. but she said, but the way you read your poem and matched it to the Quran, she said it made it accessible for me. She said, I'm going to go home and I'm going to get that Quran off the shelf and I'm going to read it again with new eyes.
Wow.
And I said, wow. So that was the moment I really, really experienced my faith and the gift that God gave me to use to share that. So.
Wow. So when you had sparked off an interest in somebody else in a way that you didn't even expect.
Right.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So I think for me, as far as identity, I'd say a couple years ago, I'd say 2 years ago, when African American brothers become Muslim, this is kind of common. Unfortunately, we take on like this, we take on Arab or we take on like Indian subcontinent culture, and we get it confused with the religion. So, I was that one brother who became Muslim and thought that Islam was all about having a beard and, wearing a robe and a kufi and, the hat. And so I was fortunate enough to get around some scholars and have mentors and teachers who taught me that I could be black and be Muslim and still be authentic at the same time. So, I remember this one imam. So imam is a leader. I remember he said to me, he was like, if the Prophet Muhammad, who, we follow his example, he was an Arabian prophet, turban, robe, sandals, right? So he said if he was what did he say? He said if he was an Eskimo, would he still wear a turban and a robe and sandals? I was like, nah, man, he wear it. I don't know what Eskimos wear, right? A North Face and some boots or something, right? So he said that, and I was just like, and he said, he responded to me, he was like, exactly. He said, that's Islam. He said, you can dress according to the people that you live amongst, and you can still be, authentic, and you can still be Muslim. So with me, that blew my mind away, because I'm like thinking I'm following his example by having this and wearing this and doing this and doing this. And at the same time, I'm like, I got a closet full of nice clothes that I'm not wearing. Like, I don't know, has anybody seen like the Muslim robe? Raise your hand if you've seen the Muslim robe. Most people call it a dress, but it's not a dress, right? So I had a closet full of those. I could wear one every day for 2 weeks and not wear the same one. And that was all I wore. So then, after learning this, I'm like, oh man, so I can start going back to shopping at Brooks Brothers and H&M and all this, right? Trust me, so a few years ago, you wouldn't even recognize me if I walked in. So that's when I really started to embrace my identity. And then, anybody know Kevin Gates here, the rapper Kevin Gates? Anybody heard of him? You guys remember when he became Muslim and he started wearing like the half robe and the hat and all this type of stuff? That's kind of what I'm getting at. But and then on top of that, I found out, my mom that summer, my mom went to the family reunion, and like I said, my whole family's Christian except for like my mom and my sisters and a couple uncles. So they're sitting there, and they got like the oldest elder in our family. They had him do a DNA test because they're trying to see where we're from in Africa. So they do the DNA test, and it comes back, and we find out the exact tribe that we came from, the exact country that we came from on my mom's side. So my sisters and my mom, but they're Muslim, and so they announced it, and everybody's excited. They're like, we're from the Marca people in Burkina Faso. So everybody's hyped and everything. So my mom leans over to my sister and is like, look that up, see where those people are from. So then she looks it up, and they were actually Muslim merchants from West Africa who were enslaved and brought here. Wow. So then, finding that out, that just gave me more fuel, because I was just like, people are kind of like Islam is like this foreign thing, and I'm like, dude, Islam is about as American as slavery. You know what I'm saying? And that's it for me.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna keep it short because I think I've already answered the question here in my presentation. But I think a moment of clarity for me was, I was raised in a Christian church, African American, Episcopalian, the AME church that was started by Richard Allen back in the 1700s. So my grandfather was a preacher, my auntie, she played in the choir, and my mother, she sung, while another one of my aunts dragged us on to church to make sure we were there and stayed in line. So my niece, when she grew up and became conscious in college and so forth, she went to my aunt, who was like the matriarch of our family. She said, what did you think of Uncle Yusuf when he became a Muslim? And she said, it broke my heart. Broke my heart. And she said, but as I watched him grow in it, and the type of man that he became, proud. And so that's one of those emotional ones for me, that it started out breaking hearts, but ended up making people proud of the change and the development that they saw in me and the things that I had accomplished in it.
Thank you.
So again, I wish I went last. I mean, went first. Sorry, not last first. So I'm pretty simple. I'm a pretty simple person, and so the experience that I'm going to say is I experience it every day. I'm going to say every day. I can assume that everybody has humble beginnings, and I really am proud of where I came from the time I was born to the journey I have till now. So, that's bad, right? So we all, as everybody knows, Muslims pray a certain amount of times a day, and some people will think, wow, that's a lot. But I actually see that prayer time as thanking God that I woke up. Thank you for giving me a meal today. Thank you for giving me to this part of the afternoon. Thank you for giving me to the dinner time, and thank you for letting me finish the day. That's how I look at it. So I'm praying 5 times because I'm appreciating every step of my day. And working in general, I work with some students sometimes, it's kind of challenging. So even before I see a student, I'm like, please, let me have the words to engage with the student, that they have the understanding that I'm trying to portray to them. And I'm teaching you to do something that you may not like. So I'm saying every experience that I'm having today, I'm appreciative that I'm in this moment. So I'm accepting the moments that I'm in. So when you ask, when do I experience it? Every day, because it's a way to say thank you, for the fortunes that we have. The news is crazy right now, and I don't know what it's going to be like in 2 days from now, an hour from now. But as of right now, I'm glad that where I sit, and I thank Allah that I'm sitting here. So, mine is every day.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Give a round of applause for those. I think we got enough time for one more question from everybody. Yeah. Okay. So let's maybe talk about something that I think everyone could identify with, which is struggling, right? Struggling. So this next question is, can you describe a moment when you've ever experienced a profound doubt in your particular calling, and how you dealt with it, how you overcame that challenge? I think these are often some of the most important moments, right? Because in the beginning of anything, it's always easy, right? First day of school, you got your notebook, you're sitting up and you're ready to go, you're excited about your classes, right? You haven't had any homework yet, so maybe you slept, hopefully you slept. Or at the beginning of a relationship or a marriage, everything's really exciting. No, I want to wash dishes. No, I want to wash the dishes. No, I want to make dinner, right? And later, no one wants to do either one of those, right? So having doubts is something that is often very difficult to talk about because we don't want to talk about it, right? But they're an essential part of growing, because if we live in the world that we live in, we encounter challenges and injustices all the time, unless your eyes are closed. If your eyes are open, there's challenges everywhere, right? So is there a particular profound doubt that you ever had as you were walking your path, and how did you overcome that?
I'll go first.
Can I go first?
I'll go first.
Important.
They're going to say a lot more than I'm going to say. So, yeah, of course you have doubt. I mean, we wouldn't be human if we didn't have doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that having a faith that you believe in gets you through that time period. So, I mean, shoot, when I ask in a prayer for something I don't get, I'm doubtful. Like, hey, did I not pray right? Did I miss out on something? Is there something I didn't do right? Did I not dedicate myself before the prayer right? Anyways, so what you continue to do for me is you continue to pray, you continue to hope for the best. So again, that divine decree, having the good and bad, is still good. It's when I have my doubts and how to address it.
Thank you. Whoever would like to go next.
I just want to go first, but
I've never had any doubts about the system of Islam itself, because when I try to do things that kind of went outside of it, or try to do things my way, it usually failed. And it's like, okay, well, God, He is the creator of the universe, so if He says do it this way, there's a method. So I never had any doubts about the system of Islam itself, but I doubted, my own, shortcomings, my own abilities to live up to it, and also people's interpretations of the religion, like, music being, haram or forbidden. As an artist, like, hey, God put music in me for a reason, so you're gonna tell Him His business by telling me that music is not good, and He put it in me to make and create, and He made birds to sing. So now you're playing God because you're trying to impose your cultural views on people. So things like that, I doubted, but never the system of Islam.
Yeah, that was powerful. I would say, I'd say the same thing in questions. Like, everybody has questions, right? So if I don't understand something or something doesn't make sense, I'm going to ask questions. So when I used to go and ask questions, it was I would just go up to anybody. And I learned the hard way. Another imam came and gave me some advice one time. He said, you only take knowledge, like religious knowledge or spiritual knowledge, from two types of people. Or he said two things. What are those? He said one of them is, you only take knowledge from a person who really loves you and who really cares about you. He said, if they don't really love you and they don't care about you genuinely, he said, don't take knowledge from them. I was like, all right. He said, second, you got to take knowledge from someone who understands your reality. In my sense, reality as a Black American man living in America. So I slipped up one time. I went and asked this one guy. He was a very big scholar from the Indian subcontinent. He was doing this class about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and he was talking about his characteristics and certain ways he used to do certain things, foods he liked, this and that. So he mentioned that he used to part his hair. And I don't know if you guys know, but in the African American community, like getting designs, getting parts, all that stuff is part of our culture, right? So I go up to him, I'm excited after class because I'm like, man, well, that means we've been following his way the whole time, right? So I go up to him, I'm talking to him, and I say, you know, so if I get a part in my head, that means like I'm following the Prophet Muhammad's way, right? And before that, I actually asked him, and this is where I should have stopped. I said, are you familiar with parts? He was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I asked him, well, you know, are you familiar with like barbershops, getting designs? He's like, no. So I should have stopped right there. But I kept going. So then I said, so if I get my, you know, my hair parted like this, that means I'm following his way, right? And he said to me, he said, no, because you don't have the same hair as the Prophet. So I just looked at him, I'm like, last time I checked in, nobody had this hair, you know what I'm saying? So then I learned from there that you can't just ask questions, but you have to ask questions from people who love you, who care about you, and they understand your reality. So I took my doubt away.
All right, faith. Have I ever had any doubts? I don't think I've had doubts, but I do still have many, many questions. And I don't think all the answers will ever be revealed until maybe we transition to the other side to find out if our faith has truly been vindicated. As the Quran says, you know, that in the end will ye know the truth, and all those things wherein ye doubted. So yes, as people of faith, that faith is an uncertainty, but it is what keeps you going. And as things unfold and reveal themselves to you, to give you more and more clarity, it just strengthens your faith and enhances it, and it lets you know that yes, you're on the right track. Just stay on it, and the destination is at hand.
Thank you.